In Venezuela, Caracas holds activities prior to the summit for the 20th anniversary of the ALBA-TCP. In Argentina, President Javier Milei collaborated dismissing more than 35,000 public workers and high levels of poverty. In Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei holds the United States and the Israeli regime responsible for the current situation in Syria, where terrorist groups seize power. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, Caracas will host the 24th Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of our Americas People's Trade Treaty. On Wednesday, the delegations from ALBA member countries prepared to hold a political and social forum. During the meeting, it is expected that high-level leaders and political actors will seek to become familiar with the meeting in order to organize the agenda with the head of states to take place this Friday. According to the official agenda of the ALBA-TCP, this Thursday, the Council of Social Movements will agree on part of the recommendations to be discussed during the summit. And let's take now this opportunity to learn more about the ALBA-TCP in the following segment.
Hello. On December 14th, Caracas is the epicenter of the 24th Summit of Head of State and Government of ALBA-TCP. To know what this multilateral mechanism is all about, let's watch the following report.
ALBA-TCP is a regional international organization founded in 2004 by the governments of Cuba and Venezuela to counter the free trade area of the Americas promoted by the United States. ALBA-TCP currently enrolls Latin American and Caribbean countries with the firm objective of fighting poverty and social exclusion based on leftist ideological doctrines. This mechanism prioritizes equality and the common good in relations between nations by fostering regional dialogue, by identifying areas for strategic alliances, and by promoting consensus and agreement among Latin American nations.
Regarding block transactions, ALBA has its own virtual currency, the Sucre, Spanish acronym for the Regional Compensation Unitary System, named after Independence General Antonio José de Sucre. The Sucre was created to progressively replace the US dollar at commercial exchanges among ALBA member countries. At present, it is under revision to be reactivated in tune with new trends and technological advancements. And on a day like this, we recall what Commander Hugo Chavez said about ALBA. ALBA equates to reviving Bolivar and Martí in the Americas. Chavez equated the ALBA project with the ideals of liberators Venezuelan Simón Bolívar and Cuban José Martí, highlighting the historical and transcendental implications of this initiative. Join us in teleSUR English throughout this special week as we continue to follow the ALBA-TCP 24th Summit in Caracas.
In Argentina, President Javier Milei celebrated having dismissed over 35,000 public employees in his first years in office, aims at high levels of poverty. During a speech on Tuesday, Milei congratulated himself for implementing measures that lead to the dismissal of thousands of workers and the worsening of poverty in the Argentine households. The president also praised the closure of the National Institute Against Discrimination, Xenophobia and Racism, as well as the Women's Ministry, in spite of turning out key programs to protect women and gender diversity. Javier Milei's judgments take place in a context of what he assured will lead the countries to economic recovery, but according to experts, the poverty indexes shows another reality. Still in Argentina, social movements begin a national day of struggle against hunger and to denounce President Javier Milei budget cuts to soup kitchens. Workers' unions of the people's economy warn about the sharp increase in poverty during the government of Liberty Advance as a result of the critical situation regarding dismissals, labor rights, and basic constitutional guarantees. The union also warned that as a consequence of Milei's neoliberal policies, millions of families will not have the possibility of having dinner on their tables during the Christmas holidays. In this sense, they demand to public and private sectors an urgent response to face this Christmas with dignity. The Bolivian Navy has added a robot to its ranks that can dump large amounts of water and fight off wildfires. The handmade robot, built by the Bolivian Armed Forces, will join the ranks in the fight against wildfires 2 months after fires ravaged at least 10 million hectares. The robot named Erizo was presented on Saturday in the city of Cochabamba by President Luis Arce. It can be taken directly to the heart of the fire and can carry 3.8 tons of water to put out the wildfires. In September and October, Bolivia experienced the biggest fires in 10 years, which leads the government of President Arce to declare a national disaster.
We congratulate the Bolivian Navy for the work it has carried out through its Department of Technological Innovation, for having created 4 prototypes of forest fire trucks and a prototype of a firefighter Erizo, as well as for the consolidation of the National Center of Experts in Natural Disasters, which announced its creation on May 11th of this year.
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The leader of the Islamic Revolution of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, blamed the U.S. and the Israeli regime for the situation in Syria, where terrorist groups seized power after overthrowing President Bashar al-Assad. The Iranian leader met on Wednesday with thousands of Iranian citizens from different strata in Tehran to tell them they have proof that the plot was a plan in command rooms in Washington and Tel Aviv. Furthermore, the Ayatollah claimed that a contributor in Syria was involved, which he might have referred to Turkey. In this sense, Khamenei points out that these nations are seeking to take over lands in the north and south of Syria, while the U.S. aims at strengthening its presence in the region. Likewise, the Iranian leader denied speculations about awakening of the axis of resistance, highlighting his confidence in the Syrian youth will expel the invading forces.
It is crystal clear that the underlying foundations on the Syrian events were the making of a coordinated joint plan of action between the US and Israeli command room. The main conspirators, the key plotters, and the control room are located in the United States and the Zionist entity. We have evidence of this, and it leaves no room for doubt or hesitation.
The Ayatollah Khamenei further advanced that the more crimes Israel and its Western allies commit against the region, the stronger the axis of resistance will become.
The axis of resistance works out like that. The more the enemy's pressure on the resistance, the stronger it becomes, and as it gets stronger than an ox by facing the escalating crimes committed against our countries, its determination strengthens as well.
Moving on, the Israeli regime issued new unlawful arrest warrants against 36 Palestinian nationals. The Palestinian Prisoners Society and the Commission of Detainees Affairs released a joint communique providing the names of those having received the judicial orders without being charged or taken to trial. Indeed, Israeli policy allows the detention of Palestinians without charging them for renewable periods that usually range from 3 to 6 months. And hence, an Israeli human rights group denounced that Tel Aviv is denying those individuals the possibility of presenting an adequate defense, so the Zionist regime continues its flagrant violations of the restrictions of international law. Israeli occupying forces continue dropping bombs on residential areas and hospitals in the Gaza Strip. Local outlets report that on past Tuesday, the Israeli Genocidal Forces mounted air and ground attacks around a hospital in Beit Lahiya city north of the Gaza Strip, killing at least 3 civilians and injuring others. Concurrently, the occupying artillery fired its shells towards the southern areas of the Al-Bureid camp and Jabalia in the center and north of the Gaza Strip, actions in which a journalist lost his life. Moreover, the Ministry of Health unfoiled that Israel has slaughtered over 44,800 Palestinians since October 2023. In this context, the Gazan Civil Defense warned of being close to disrupting all services in the territory due to the Israeli aggressions. And in these services will affect over 2 million Palestinians. The civil defense denounced that since the onset of the Israeli offensive, the occupying forces have deliberately attacked their facilities and vehicles. The entity noted that an immediate and permanent ceasefire is necessary for humanitarian reasons, in addition to making sure that aid arrives quickly. Palestinian authorities denounced the Israeli forces' massive demolitions of a village in the northern occupied West Bank. Palestinian officials condemned the devastating aftermath of the Israeli incursions onto their territories. One of them was the head of the Colonization and War Resistance Commission, Muyad Shabbat, who spoke out against the destruction of the Kirbet Al-Tawil village nearby the Aqaba city. In addition, the leader urged international and human rights institutions to safeguard the Palestinian people from the systematic attacks of Israeli forces and shelters. The authority drew attention to the fact that Israeli bulldozers have demolished houses, agricultural lands, and the power grid served in the Kirbet Al-Tawil area. The Spanish government announced its support for Lebanon and bet on the country's stability following a meeting between Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and his Lebanese counterpart Najib Mikati. During the meeting, both politicians discussed issues related to the bilateral cooperation between Spain and Lebanon, as well as the current situation in the Middle East. The Lebanese premier thanked the Spanish government for the support to his country and for including Peru in the list of priorities for development cooperation. Mikati also emphasized his priority regarding Israel's commitment to the resolution of a ceasefire and the withdrawal from southern Lebanon. Sudanese armed forces hit a district of northern Darfur state, claiming over 100 lives in Sudan. Emergency agencies issued briefings to provide details of the incident that state that the Sudanese armed forces dropped bombs on a market in the Kabia area. The entity describes the incursion as an overnight massacre in the morning, which not only inhabited over 100 people, but also left 100 injured, including women and children. This airstrike is part of an intense campaign by the Sudanese armed forces against the rebel paramilitary rapid support forces. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Wednesday, South Korean police raided the presidential office and police headquarters as part of the investigations into the imposition of martial law by President Yoon Suk-yeol. The raid were carried out at the government's office, the Seoul Metropolitan Police Headquarters, and the Parliamentary Police Headquarters. During a meeting with the Parliamentary Legislative Committee, the chairman of the Office for Corruption Investigation of High-ranking Officials, Ho Dong-won, assured that a thorough investigation was underway and that Yoon's arrest would be requested if the necessary conditions were met. President Yoon is banned from leaving the country as he is under investigation for committing treason, immunity, and abuse of power allegations that also hang over several senior governments and military officials. On tractors, farmer UK trade unions are currently taking to the London streets in rejection of the government's proposed tax hike. Farmers' tractors are the cordoning of Westminster in London as the government seeks to remove an inheritance tax exception for farming businesses. Indeed, around 13,000 people are rallying against the new tax policies, which peasants said will harm family farms facing difficulties. The tax hike proposed that as of 2026, farm properties that worth over $1.3 million shall pay a 20% tax in order to pass them on the next generation. The Russian government urged Western countries to end any support for the Ukrainian regime after the attacks of International Atomic Energy Agency staff. The Kremlin said that the attacks on the agency personnel demonstrated the irresponsibility of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his disregard for the consequences of a possible nuclear accident in the region. The Russian Defense Ministry said that Kiev ordered a series of aggressions against the vehicles transporting the agency's personnel while they were on a tour on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Ministry urged the international community and mainly the countries supporting Ukraine to bring to justice those responsible for the attack. And we go to cultural topics. In Havana, Cuba, the 8th edition of the IFE International Electronic Music Festival will be held from December the 11th to the 15th at the Fábrica de Arte. IFE 2024 will begin with a day of 11 workshops and a showcase of new talents, one of the novelties of this edition. It will be a space for learning, projections, and connection for emerging artists who will show their proposals to industry professionals and establish artists of Cuban electronic music. From December the 12th to the 15th, nights at the Fábrica de Arte will include concerts and live performances with the function of electronic genders and traditional Cuban sounds. And with that, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials, we're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the south of Marmarrero. Thank you for watching.